Hey, what's up everyone? Tato Khatebe here. Welcome back to my channel. If you're a new subscriber to the channel, I want to say welcome to you and thank you very much for subscribing to this YouTube channel. If you haven't already subscribed, please do consider subscribing down below. It's absolutely free and it'll help the channel out quite a lot. If you are a returning subscriber, I want to say thank you very much for coming back to my channel once again. Your views are highly appreciated and I really do appreciate everyone that is taking their time out to come and watch these videos. As I have mentioned in the previous video last week, Monday, I did say we are on our road to 1,000 subscribers. So if you haven't already subscribed, if you are watching this video, please do consider doing that. It'll help to get us to that milestone as soon as possible. Once we do reach that 1,000 subscriber mark, I will be having a giveaway. It'll be similar to what we did for our 500 subscriber giveaway a few months ago. So if you want to be in line to win a piece, please make sure that you are subscribed. And as soon as we hit that 1,000 subscriber mark, I will be having a giveaway in celebration of that milestone. So for today's video, we're going to be talking about some tools, and more specifically the tools that us as jewelry designers use that I consider to be a bit more on the luxurious side. And by luxurious, I mean they are not necessary to have, but if you do have them, they'll probably make your life a lot simpler in terms of the work that you're doing, and they will obviously save you a lot of time on the bench. And the reason why I wanted to talk about this topic today is quite often when I do my lectures at the university, if you guys are not aware, I'm a university lecturer at the University of Johannesburg. I lecture jewelry design there. And oftentimes when I give my lectures, students will always ask me about the tools that I have in my workshop and how much they cost, where can they find them, and how do they work, and so on. So whenever those kind of questions come up, I always tell my students they do not necessarily need all the tools that are available, because a lot of the tools that are available are luxury tools, which means they make the process a lot simpler in terms of the way you manufacture, but you are able to get alternatives which will get the job done just as well as those luxury items that I'm talking about now. The only difference is with the luxury tools, they will save you a lot of time and they make the process a lot simpler. So for today, I'm going to be going through some of my personal luxury tools that I have and giving you an alternative to those tools in case you are somebody who is trying to start their own jewelry business and budgets might be a bit tight. Oftentimes it is. I know when I was starting out, we didn't have much of a budget to go from. So if you are somebody that's starting out, hopefully this video will help you to see that there are other alternatives that you can use that will get the job done, even though they might not be considered as luxury. So I have a list of about 5 tools that I personally have, which I use often in my business. And then I'll be giving you an alternative to use if you are somebody who's trying to start a jewelry business on a budget. So if that's something that sounds interesting to you, please do stick around and I hope you enjoy this video. So the first tool that I consider a luxury that I have is this tool right here. This is actually an electric engraver, but I don't use it for engraving. I use it for my flush setting. You would have seen it briefly in some of my previous videos where I was flush setting some pieces. And this comes in very handy because you are able to flush set a lot quicker than using your hand by itself, because it's able to push the metal over the stone a lot quicker and a lot more efficiently than being able to use it by hand. So the way that it works is you take your Allen key and then you basically just open up the top over there, and then you take your burnisher. I made this burnisher myself. I just used a old drill bit and I just polished the top and I rounded off the edges to make sure that it's nice and smooth at the top there. You place your burnisher inside there and then you basically close it up again using the Allen key. And then there's a on and off button over there. Switch it on and then it's able to basically this part moves up and down very quickly, and what it does is it's able to then push the metal using the tip of the burnisher to close up the top of your setting to be able to hold the stone in place. So this is something that I consider as a luxury because, as I said, you don't necessarily need this to be able to flush set. An alternative to using the burnisher or the electric engraver is just basically using a pin vise, which is this guy over here. So you basically open it at the top there. You can take your burnisher, you put the burnisher inside, and then you tighten it up like that. After having tightened it up, then it basically works in the same way as your electric engraver. But now what you do is, instead of it being an electric engraver that is pulsing up and down to be able to close the metal at the top, the pin vise then holds the burnisher in place, and then you're able to move the metal around the stone to be able to hold it in place. So this is a much more cost-effective solution as opposed to having to get an electric engraver like this. The second tool that I consider to be a luxury is actually a set of tools. This is actually a bezel setting punch set, and this is used for being able to set some stones in a bezel. So a bezel is basically when you think of a stone that is being held into a piece that is made out of a tube, what this tool does is you are able to then take the tool itself and place it over the stone over the bezel where the stone is sitting, and then you, by moving it around in this direction like this, in a circular motion like this, it pushes the setting around to hold the stone in place. The way that this works is it comes with this hand piece over here in the set. You open it up like that, and then you take whichever size that is required. As you can see, it comes in different sizes, starting from 0.75 all the way up to the one that I've got in my hand now, which is a 7.75 millimeter. You take that and you place it inside the hand piece, and then you close it up. Because the inside of this is very conical, as you can see, it then takes the metal all the way around and pushes the setting or the metal that's around down onto the stone to hold the stone in place. So this is something that you can use if you've got some extra money. An alternative to this is you can just buy a normal burnisher, which looks like this, and then what this does is you are able to then use the metal part of that burnisher to then push the setting around to hold the stone in place. Obviously, because of the shape of this burnisher, you need to then move all the way around the stone manually to be able to push the setting down to hold the stone in place. The bezel setting punches make life a lot simpler because there's no need for you now to be using your hand, using the other burnisher to push the metal around. The bezel setter itself, the top part there where it's conical, helps to speed things up because of its shape. It's able to then move the metal around to secure the stone in place. So this would be advisable for you to get if you do have some extra money, but if you do not, getting a normal burnisher will do the job just as well. The third tool, which I consider to be a luxury, would be this right here. More specifically, this black part that you're looking at over here. The black part, this is known as shellac. Shellac is a thermal adhesive used by jewelers and gem cutters to hold jewelry pieces in place. It's often applied at the top of a shellac stick to hold small complex objects in place. So I don't have a shellac stick. What I've normally used now, as you can see, it's just a copper tube, and I've taken the shellac and melted it over this copper tube. The way that this works is you take your shellac and then you melt it. As it melts, you then take it and place it on top of your shellac stick, or in my case now, I've just used this copper pipe, and it doesn't come in this form. It comes as blocks like this, as you can see. And I've got a whole bunch of them over here. And what I did is I just basically melted it. It doesn't need a high temperature to be able to melt. You just melt it, and then you basically just mold it over your shellac stick. And then while it's still very molten, you can take the piece that you're trying to set or that you're trying to work on, and you just place it on there, and you give it a few minutes for it to be able to set. And then once it's hardened, as you can see, it is quite hard, you then are able to work on the piece. Now you can see there's still a bit of an indent over there from the last piece that I was using the shellac for. And once you're happy and you've done the setting, all you have to do is just heat it up again, and then you can just simply remove the piece off. So an alternative to using this, if you cannot afford to buy shellac, would be to just use a normal clamp. This is a ring clamp. It's got a wedge at the back, and it's able to basically hold any piece in place. So you place the piece at the top here, and then you use the wedge to hold it in place, and then you are able to then work on it. There are limitations to what you can do with a ring clamp like this, and what you would have to then do is try to be creative in the way that you're holding it so that it doesn't hinder you from being able to achieve what you're trying to do. An example of how to use the ring clamp is, if I take my piece, I just open it up, I place the piece on the inside of the clamp like that, and I take the wedge, I place the wedge on the inside, make sure that it's nicely tightly wedged in there, and as you can see, it's now holding the piece in place, and I'm able to do what I need to do while it is held in place like that. This is a much more affordable solution for you to use, as opposed to having a complete shellac setup like this. Because the fourth tool, which I consider to be a luxury, is this tool right here. This is a tube cutter. So the way that this works and its purpose is you are able to cut tubes at a very specific size, because what you do is you open up this section here. As you've twisted that, this section is now able to slide up and down based on the size of tube that you're trying to cut. Once you're happy with the size of tube, let's say it has to be a tube that's that long, you open it up to that section, and then you close it up there. Once it's closed up, then this part stays in place. You remove this section, the tube then is able to sit in here, and it hits up against the boundary part over there, and then you close it up, and then you're able to then cut the tube specifically to the size that you want it. As you can see, there's a groove over there where your saw blade is then able to cut to. So this is not a necessity as well. It's one of those luxury tools that it just makes things a lot simpler and a lot quicker. If you know that I need to make a tube at a specific size, you just open this up to the size that it needs to be, and then you are able to then cut it to that size. But the alternative to you using or being able to use a tube cutter is you just have to take your time and basically measure the size that you need to do each and every single time by using your vernier. So open up your vernier to the size that it needs to be. All you're doing is measuring the size of the tube and then cutting it to the size that it needs to be every single time. As I said, doing it that way just takes a bit of time, because you just have to make sure that after every single cut, you are making sure that all of the parts that you are cutting are exactly the measurement that you require them to be, and then you're able to cut. But there isn't anything wrong with doing that. It'll just take you a bit of time. Having a tube cutter just cuts that time in half, and then you are able to get as much of the cutting done as quickly and as accurately as possible. Now, speaking about verniers, the last tool that I consider to be a luxury is in fact a digital vernier, which is this guy right here. Now, what makes this a luxury? Not that it's a vernier. You need a vernier in order for you to be as accurate as possible with the measurements that you need, but you don't necessarily need a digital vernier. As you can see, this thing takes the guesswork out, that you don't have to now keep looking at what size it is. You just have to open it, and this will give you the size that it needs. So if I need a 30mm length for something, I just make sure that I open it up. I take my time very slowly to get to that 30mm, and you can see it takes you down to 1/10 of a millimeter, and I can be as accurate as I want to be right there. If I need it to be 30, as I said, there you go. I get to the 30mm, I close it up at the top there, and I know that the distance between there and there is in fact 30mm. Now, this thing is not necessary, because there's nothing wrong with using a manual vernier that doesn't have any digital components to it. This, you'll pay 1/3 of the price compared to this. So you don't necessarily need to go this route. Just buy yourself a normal vernier, and then all you have to now basically do is make sure that if I'm looking for the 30mm that I'm looking for, you just have to now physically yourself open this up to the 30mm, which is what I've got over there. Then I just simply close that up to tighten it, and then I know that that gap between here and here is 30mm. There really isn't a need for you to go digital. If you are on a budget, rather get yourself a normal manual vernier, and you'll be able to get the job done as accurately as using a digital vernier. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And if there is somebody out there who you think will find value in this video, who might be starting a business and they need to know what kind of alternatives they can have instead of having to spend a lot of money on tools, please do share it with them. I think it will be quite useful for them. Obviously, these tools are just a few of the many examples that I could go into, but these are just examples that I have personally. And you know, once I do have more tools which I consider to be luxury, I'll probably do another video updating this list that I have right now. So thank you once again for being a part of my YouTube channel. I really do appreciate everyone that is here. As I said, we are on the road to 1,000 subscribers, and as soon as we get there, there will be a giveaway. So please do not forget to subscribe down below so that we can get to that 1,000 mark as soon as possible. So until we do meet again in about 7 days, I hope you guys have a fantastic week. Peace.